Stu Cummings, a lot in common. A lot in common, Stu Cummings.
I noticed him as soon as he stepped into the marketplace, glancing around at the crowd, looking for someone or someplace, wandering from stall to stall, finally stopping near me and ordering, "That 4, please, with feta cheese." And then he left in a hurry through to the busiest place of the market. He looked so out of place in that heavy desert robe. Suddenly I realized it was a suicide bomber, and he was heading for my family. I ran after him as fast as I could. He sat down 2 meters from my family. Just before I got there, I heard, "Praise Allah!" I threw my body between the bomber and the family. Praise Allah for the food, that today we're Canadians. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, my mind snapped back to reality. This was not an open marketplace in Afghanistan. This was Polo Park, food court. They warned me, as a soldier who spent 2 years, 2 terms in Afghanistan, that I might have episodes of post-traumatic stress disorder. But I never expected this. My whole body was shaking. I was sweating. I could hardly catch my breath. And then I felt a cool hand in my arm. "Sir, my name is Abdul. In Afghanistan, I was a doctor. Could I help you, sir? Please sit down, sir. Breathe deep, sir." And across the table, I heard my young son, "Daddy, are we going to say grace and eat our pizza?" "Thank you, Abdul. I think I'll be okay now." And I sat, when my family ate our pizza. Abdul sat with his family and ate theirs. A few seconds later, he looked over at me, a beaming face with a big smile. He said, "Sir, today my family is celebrating. This morning we became Canadian citizens." "Sir," and he asked me a question I had never expected. "Has your family always been Canadians?" I thought back to my grandfather Ivan, and I began to tell Abdul. Abdul, my grandfather Ivan, was a very successful grain farmer in Ukraine. And then one spring morning, the communist officials and the soldiers marched in to the rally, rounded up all the farmers and their families, and told them, "Your farms now belong to the state. Your crops belong to the state. You are required to stay and work your farm." My grandfather said anyone who did not obey, anyone who expressed any displeasure, they and their families were marched away at gunpoint, never seen again. Grandfather and his wife, my Oma, and their 2 children went quietly back to the farm. Grandfather said, "Ukrainian bank, no good." For 3 weeks, they carefully, secretly gathered all the monies that grandmother hid around the farm. And one night they began a 3-month journey across Europe to France, where they got on a boat. Grandfather paid for passage to Halifax, Nova Scotia. When they got to Pier 19 in Halifax, the immigration officials met them and asked grandfather, "What happened? Why are you here?" He explained through a translator, and they came back an hour later and said, "Ivan, you and your family are refugees. You are welcome in Canada." Grandfather said, "We didn't speak English. We didn't know anybody in Canada. We didn't know where we were going or what we were going to do. But we knew everything was going to be okay, because we were in Canada. With the translator, he went to the train station, took most of the rest of his money, and said, "Sir, how far will this get me?" They were able to get to Winnipeg, Manitoba, where Ivan, a successful Canadian Ukrainian grain miner, became Ivan, the railroad laborer. A year later, Abdul, they gave birth to another son, the first Canadian in our family, my father. Abdul looked at me and said, "Sir, that is so much like our story. In Afghanistan, I had a farm, and I was also a doctor. One day, the Taliban came in. They gathered all the farmers, and they just slaughtered them because I was a doctor. They allowed me and my family to live. My family, because they would use them to force me to do what they wanted me to do. They would torture and kill my family. 3 months we lived in terror. We were able to escape Afghanistan. We came to Montreal. There we had to wait a month in detention. And finally, June 11th, they came and said, "Abdul, here is a working visa. You may go anywhere you wish." We didn't speak English. We didn't know anybody in Canada. We didn't know where to go or what to do. But we got on a train and went as far as we could, Winnipeg, where I, Abdul, the Afghani farmer and doctor, am now Abdul, the taxi driver. But sir, 20 days later, I began my first job as a taxi driver. What a Canada Day that was for us, July 1st. Free, secure, a future, and safe. Sir, we have a lot in common. I looked at Abdul, I stood up and I embraced him in an Afghani hug. I said, "Yes, Abdul, we do. We have a lot in common. But the most important thing we have in common, Abdul, is today, together. We're Canadians.